Hello, everyone. This is Michael Walter. Welcome to the Michael Ventures YouTube channel, where I'm here with Michael Antonakos. How you been, Michael?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for taking the time to do this interview. Very appreciative of it. And so, with any story, let's start from the beginning. Where are you from?
Born in Athens, Greece. Uh, Moved to Canada when I was young, about 3 years old, and traveled all over many parts of Canada as I grew up, but primarily the Rocky Mountains. Lake Louise, Banff area is where and Golden was where I probably spent majority of my uh, youth and teen years.
When was that moment for you when you realized you wanted to be an actor?
Grade two. Um, when I did a play called Little Red Riding Hood, and I was playing the grandmother. And I remember auditioning against two other girls for the part and just praying to God that I would get it. And I got it, which was surprising. And so I played the grandmother. I remember making the audience laughing at something I did, and just the roar of laughter in the gymnasium. And and also nobody knowing at the end of the play when I took off my bonnet and spectacles, like nobody knowing I was a boy, nobody knowing um, who I was, and so it was a big shock. So I love this idea that I had this power to bring laughter and entertainment to people, as well as like step out of myself at that time. And I remember there was a lot going on emotionally in my life, and it it brought something into my life that I just fell in love with. And I said, I love this. I want to do this. I don't know what this is really. I didn't think about it as a career, but I just knew that it was, I just wanted to pursue this and do this as much as I could. And then slowly, I, continued in that way and wanted to make a career out of it. And just kept performing. I just loved it.
Very cool. I did read up that when you moved to Vancouver, you landed your very first video game role in Lord of the Rings: The Third Age. How did that come about for you? And were you a video gamer growing up?
I was a bit of a video gamer. Like, uh, I was big into first person shooter games. So like Metal Gear Solid is not really first person shooter, but I was big into that game. Siphon Filter, um, the Golden Eye. What other games did I really like? But those are the idea of the games I really enjoyed playing myself. And and when I moved to Vancouver, I left theater school, the university. I left and wanted to pursue it. So I just happened to get an audition at that time. EA was at the Vancouver Film Studios lot here in Vancouver, and it was before they'd created their own massive facility out in Burnaby here, and it was a cattle call. It was like hundreds of people coming out, stuntmen, all different types of performers, and auditioning for this game. And motion capture was still fairly new. This was about 2002, 3, somewhere in there. And it was still fairly new at that time. Um, and I just showed up kind of understanding what they were looking for, I think is what it is. I took it as like you're a dwarf. That's how I got the job. It was auditioning for all these different characters, and then they wanted someone who could like be a dwarf. So they made you run around a room with a fake axe or something in your hand, as if you had an axe in your hand. So there was like a mime element. And I'd done lots of theater at this point, but I also knew like the body would have to be very different because I was a big fan of Lord of the Rings too at the time, and I just knew the body would have to move differently and have to have a different gait in the run and in the walk, and it would have to feel short, stocky. And so I just changed the way I moved, like just the physicality of myself, and put on a deeper, gruffer voice and changed the way I did everything. And I remember I had this line every time I need to get into character, I'd say, "And my axe," and then I'd change it to that voice. So it was just like a very fun, just step out of yourself into like a physical puppetry is kind of what I got out of it. And I got it. It was really it. I got it. It was my first big auditions. My second audition was literally that week for my first animation for a cartoon called Trolls, which I booked. So I got my two very first big auditions for those two fields, and kind of just threw me into that world. And then I figured out it was a lot harder than I expected. Like, so I had some really cool people who'd been doing it a bit at that time, and they were showing me the ropes. Okay, this is how you do it. This is what you got to do. Video games at that point really were very broad in their physicality. They're not as finessed and subtle as it is today, because the rendering processes and capture processes are just so much more advanced. So you'd have to move a lot all the time, big breathing and like keeping the characters alive. So I've really got to see the age of video game performance capture expand and just enriching to where we're at now. And I can only imagine where it'll be in another 5, 10 years. So yeah, that's how I started.
So this last year, you got to have your turn as a certain Cape Crusader.
Yeah,
Batman, Gotham Knights, the video game. Not to be confused with the CW series of the same name. It's completely
it's
different.
true. It is true. People have said the same. Oh, that's coming out as a TV series. I'm like, oh yeah. They're
How
like,
did it
you're
come
Batman.
about for
No worries.
How did it come about for you? How did Gotham Knights first come about for you?
I was in Toronto at the time. I was doing the DLCs on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I got an audition from my agent. They were doing a test screening or test shoot, sorry, for the preliminary approval of Gotham Knights, and they were looking for someone to do a Bruce Wayne, and they were just casting across Canada anyone who could do like the motion capture, performance capture, voice, um, to do this preliminary test shoot. I don't even think it was for the actual finale casting of the game. It was just to do this test to sort of provide it to Warner Brothers to be like, okay, here's how it's going to look. Here's the style. Here's everything. And I sent in an audition. They called, said, gave me some notes. And so I sent the notes back basically in another performance on a Friday. I think it got the first audition on Wednesday. Notes sent it in by Friday. Got a call on Monday, and was flying to Montreal by a Wednesday and shooting. And the scene that I was preparing for is actually the end shot is actually the scene that you saw in the trailer. If you're watching this, I'm dead. That was actually that test shoot actually became the trailer. And I didn't even know I was booked on the job till even after the trailer had come out. I was like, wait, hold on. That's me. So it was interesting because I waited about a year and a bit before I got an official call to be like, hey, we're shooting now and we'd like to cast you. And that's even after the trailer had been released. Um, so it was a fascinating process. I'm the only Canadian in it who's playing the voice and motion cap and performance capture. So it was a big honor, and it was a big jump for them to step out of the Batmans they've had before. But I do know that the process of my audition really, really intrigued um, the executives in Warner Brothers and the writers. So they flew up to watch me perform that test shoot in Montreal, and they all said they really liked my voice, and they knew nothing about me at the time. They didn't know I was playing Alexios in Assassin's Creed, and they didn't know any of this stuff. So it was kind of very serendipitous to go from that to auditioning and then getting to actually play Batman. Um, and I think to me, they really took a chance and they took a shot, and I'm very grateful to them.
That's the
Um,
only thing that took a chance. They took a chance of Batman getting off at the very beginning of his own game. When you
they
read
really
that in the script, what was your initial reaction to that? I mean,
well when
that
I first
sorry.
go ahead, go
I
ahead.
gotta tell you, I mean, it's gotta be the best Batman fight scene, even better than the movies to a lot of people. So, what was your initial reaction to that?
Well, when I first got hired, there was no way he was going to die. Not a chance. That's what I was told. There's like he'll be brought back. There's no way they'll allow it. It won't be a thing. It was so funny. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this stuff, but there was no way he was going to die. Let's just put it that way. So it was a very big thing. I was like, okay, great. And then I think because it was a new director brought in. Wilson wasn't part of that original test thing, and then Wilson brought it to direct the game. And I think Wilson really fought for that concept to like, can we really do it? Could we actually really do it? And kudos to him for being able to convince the studio to be like, yeah, you know what? Let's kill Batman. Let's actually kill him. Let's see what happens. And when I first read it, I was under the assumption that, like, he wasn't going to fully die. And then after I got back to actually start shooting, and they're like, no, we're actually going to kill him. But he's going to die later in the game, for real. Because I was like, he's definitely coming back. And they're like, yeah, he's coming back. And then they're like, but we're going to kill him again. It's like, that's awesome. And sad for me, but awesome. And so when I read it, it was under a different assumption to what ended up happening later, when they actually had created the full script and created the storyline they were going to go with. But it was a shock to know that, and that fight scene was incredible. I mean, I'd love to take credit for that fight scene, but I can only take credit for like the acting moments and the in between moments, because they had stunt guys do the physical fight elements of it, and then I did all the in between fillers and all the acting moments in it. So they had done that in LA and then shipped it up, and then director Wilson and I watched it, and I was just like, this is crazy. He's like, it's so long. I was like, I know, it's wild. It's the longest fight scene, and it's amazing. So but in the end, you know, it, those stunt performers did an incredible job, and the vision they had with it as well was really, really awesome. So I give them kudos for the creation of that fight scene. And then all the elements that was brought into it with the Bat Cave, with everything going on. I just thought it was so cool, and I'm glad the audiences liked it, because I think they were a little worried. They weren't sure how people were going to take it, because it was a long fight scene. It had a lot of elements. Batman gets killed. It's like so many things in it. But I read a lot of comments, and I saw a lot of people really enjoying it, and that was really nice to see. That people were like, this is one of the best fight scenes ever done. And it was cool. I mean, who ejects themselves from the cockpit of their own plane across the Batcave and get to get themselves out of a situation and continue the fight scene somewhere else? It was good.
You are part of a great crowd of actors who have come to play Batman, like Michael Keaton, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck, Rob Pattinson, and let's not forget the late great Kevin Conroy. And how did you approach Batman differently from everyone else who came before you? How did you go about making this Batman, for the time you did have on the script, your own versus the other portrayals we've seen before?
Well, for me, it was like, I'm not going to try and make a copy of someone, because that won't be authentic. But I want to keep an element of, what's the right word? I wanted to keep an element of similarity. That there's something familiar. That's the word I was looking for. Something familiar. Something feels safe. Something feels consistent in the performance of Batman. And everyone likes Kevin Conroy's voice. Everyone likes that style. And I watched a lot. I watched a lot of different performances of Batman, and I get it. There's that sound he had and that quality he had was very special. And the only other actor that I found that continued that line was Roger Craig Smith. He kept that similar thing, and I'd already used him as a reference point with his Ezio for Alexios. And I was like, well, I'm just going to take from everyone, but I'm really going to take their foundation and what they've created, because it's the most consistent, and bring that in through my voice. Just put it in that range of sound, and then where would that sound authentically through me? And the rest was script. It was really script. I think the difference with this Bruce Wayne and Batman is his where he's at in his moment of life. So rather than trying to play a stone cold, serious, tough, Batman who's very reserved, walls up, mask on, always trying to keep the training part of his style to his apprentices. He's very stoic in all of that in most previous renditions, and I was like, well, this is the difference with this character in this moment of his life, is that he's in acceptance. So I wanted to bring out something that we don't usually see, which is the heart of Bruce Wayne without the walls up. What would that look like to actually be like, I'm actually going to be sincere with you guys now, like a father would, because you've all worked really hard and you've all done everything I needed, and I trust you. And that's a big thing for Bruce Wayne to ever say to anyone, I think, to say, I trust you. So that was kind of the element I feel like I brought to it that was different. And I'm grateful for that opportunity, for that uniqueness to bring out a Batman.
Gotham Knights, I think for all of us guys to experience it, the game was amazing. Everyone who worked on it was great, including yourself. So, can you tell us about some of your upcoming projects, if you can?
I can't actually, but I am. I'm doing some motion capture for another big game. I'm doing. I am going to be performing and doing performance capture for the lead in another big game coming up. Probably won't be out for another year or two, but we start shooting in October. And what else? I mean, yeah, projects are always coming and going. There's a game I called Homeworld. I can actually say that one, Homeworld. What's the backdrop? Homeworld, something of Karak, was the last game, and so I was in that, and I'll be in the next one coming up. I think it's their third installment, and so I'll be a voice in that video game as well. And I'm trying to think of any other games that I can mention. I can't. NDAs suck. That's all I can say. You're not allowed to say so many things, but I look forward to letting you guys know when the time is right. And in the meantime, I'm always enjoying coaching and teaching and filling my extra space with family and teaching the art and craft of voiceover and motion capture and acting.
That's cool. And NDA, as an actor myself, I can relate to that. Trust me.
Yeah.
Last question. What's your opinion on James Gunn's new DC universe coming up, with starting with Superman Legacy?
Where's Superman? Isn't that the real question?
Indeed, dude, indeed.
What can I say? I can't comment on something I haven't seen. I don't know much about. Obviously, there's a lot of questions that come up with why would you choose certain people and not other people. Um, and I hope it's good. DC's gone through a lot of ups and downs, and they've made some cool, really great things, only to have like ruined them on their second round. Wonder Woman. Uh, and this I hope it's good. I'm excited for the Flash. I'm excited to see that it looks cool. Michael Keaton's back. I was like, yeah. So I hope and wish it success. The last bout they made had some good and some really interesting choices. So, what can I say? I wish it the best.
We wish you the best too, man. Thanks so much for this interview. Everyone, again, this is the Michael Ventures. This is Michael Antonakos. Thank you very much, Mr. Antonakos. Great
Oh,
talking
thanks,
to you.
man. Thanks for having me. And DC, I love you. Just, I have a lot of questions regarding some of the films you made.